Hello all my JavaScript friends, this is TheVirtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and this is our racing game. Now where we left off on our last video is that we got everything set up. We got the engine set up, the scene set up, the camera, the lighting, and all that kind of fun stuff, which of course, as you can tell, shows absolutely nothing on the screen. So let's start building everything from the ground up by starting with shock upon shock, the ground. So let's go over into our code. Let's go back to the very top of the code. So here's our constructor. Now, in this particular case here, I don't have any kind of ground that I have created within the constructor here. So let's go to the initialization section. Yep, there it is right there, the ground itself. Yeah, in reality, I think the easier thing to do, and this is something I just realized, that this new ground ID should be up here in the constructor. So we're going to put this up here in the constructor instead. There we go. That should solve that problem. So we save it, and that will change absolutely nothing on our screen because we didn't create anything. And within all of these routines that I have here, I've kind of kept it separate, for the creation part of it separate from the rendering. Everything always calls some sort of render method. Just try to make it easier on everybody. So the highlight left here, we've now got our ground back. Where is it? Got our ground back onto the screen. Let's now go into the initialization section where everything starts to get rendered. Again, remember, we've already done the engine, we've done the scene, we've done the camera, and we've done the light. We've loaded up the physics engine. Everything is ready to go. So let's do now the ground. And to call the ground all we do is render. So let's take a quick look at that screen for the ground. And what I have done for now, and I most likely will change this before we finish up all these videos here, is that all of the JavaScript classes to support the rendering of everything you see on the screen here is underneath the page's race directory. And they probably shouldn't be there. They should probably be somewhere else, but for me, they're kind of, that's the organization, because this is specific to the race page, so I kind of want to keep it with the race. But let's take a look at the ground real quick. So the ground is extraordinarily simple. The idea here is that we just create it, but when we actually render it here, we're going to use the UI methods to create materials. So if we go to the UI, and let's find create material, create material. This is create material. This is what basically the coloration and or any kind of patterns you want to put on the meshes, and that's what this section right here does. It gets it ready for Babylon.js. What I want to do specifically in the ground here is I have two different materials. I have the ground material, and there's some walls on either side of the ground, just in case these cars fall off the track and get on the ground. I don't want them rolling off the ground, so I got some walls to prevent that from happening. And so I've created some ground material and some wall material by using the create material method, and I've given it a color. This is a darker green color, and this is a pure black color. And that will basically create materials that are just physically colors. The base of the ground is called create ground. Babylon.js happens to have a specific mesh for ground, and it basically gives you a depth and a width, but it doesn't give you any kind of height to it. So it's just basically, it's about as what's the best term? It's a plane, for lack of a better term. It's a two-dimensional plane. Instead of being a three-dimensional box, it's a two-dimensional plane. And that's what the create ground does here, is that I've given it, there's the mesh names, there's the mesh creator on there. If I'm passing in a material, there's a material. If I'm passing in a position, there's a position. I'm saving it off, and then the important thing here is I'm also giving it a physical attribute here. Now, ground, I don't want it to move. I want it to interact with everything like the cars, but I don't want it to move. So I've given it a massive 0. Anything that is a massive 0 in Babylon.js will basically mean that it will be a base. It won't be affected by gravity. Now, here on Earth, obviously, everything is affected by gravity, but from our particular perspective here, if you were to jump up and down, the floor that you're jumping up and down on basically has a massive 0. It's not moving. It is, for lack of a better term, the ground. you are the one that has mass. So anything that's going to be moving or interacting with gravity will have a mass greater than 0. Anything that will be a solid and not interact with gravity will have a mass of 0. Did I say that right? Yeah. Anything interacting with gravity will have a mass greater than 0, and everything that will not interact with gravity or be solid and be stationary will have a mass of 0. So therefore, that's what the create ground does. Okay, we create a box. Now, we've created the ground itself, so now I want to create the 4 walls that go around the box, and that will be done with the create. I'm sorry, I'm going to create the 4 walls that goes around the ground, and that will be with the create box. And the create box is very, very simple. It uses the mesh builder create box, and it does the same things you saw with the ground there. If it's got a material, it applies a material. If it's got a position, it applies a position. If it's got physics options, it applies physics options to it, and then, you know, blah, 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 so forth, so on and so forth. So this is my north wall, and again, look, mass of 0. This is my south wall. No big deal. This is my east wall, and this is my west wall. So that's basically what's created there, is that we render, first of all, the base is the big green ground base, and then the 4 walls, and they're given particular positions based upon the you know, where they are on the screen itself. So if we go back over to race, and we've got the ground render now. So that was the big thing, is that if we got the ground render and we hit save, let's go over to our screen. And sure enough, there is the ground render. Now you can see how the camera works. So with the camera now, I can use the arrow keys, and I can fly around. So let's go all the way over to here. So this is the ground, is the green area. These are 2 of the walls, and you can see here I've got walls going all over the place. So this black color here is the wall. This black color is the wall material. The green color is the ground material. Let's fly up a little bit. Let's just do a refresh. So there you go. So you can tell now that we've seen something on the screen here, I've got the camera. Let's just I'm going to kind of flip through what we kind of discussed with the cameras last time, is that I've got the camera in a certain position and looking a certain way. So if I was to flip back over to, I'm just going to show you this real quick. If I was to flip back over to my race thing, and let's go to the create camera, let's put the position, instead of +10, let's put it over on, or -10, let's put it -50 on the Z axis. And so if I was to now go over to the screen itself, it moved. If I was to go now 150 instead, as you can tell, it just kind of keeps moving. Let's go back to 10. And now let's do X of 53 instead of 3. Yep, there we go. We're all messed up now. So so you can tell it's very easy to be able to set the initial position of the camera and set the initial target. So that's basically all there is to the ground itself. So now we got things up on the screen. What's the next things that we're going to be taking a look at? Well, after this, you know, once we get the ground on the thing, we need to actually now render out the cars and the layout. So we'll do those 2 things here in this particular video before we leave you here. So let's flip back over to our code. Now within our code itself, let's get the layout done first. Now we initially had built the layout once we've loaded everything in, and I needed to do that so I can get the starting position so I can get my camera done correctly. So we have built the layout. Now again, as I mentioned in the earlier video, building the building of the layout doesn't actually build the meshes for the graphics. It just prepares the JSON data to be built by the meshes within the system. That will become with the render. So there's our ground, so no big deal there. So let's now go into the initialization. Now that we've loaded everything, we now have the layout render that we want to execute. So let's now, well, we won't do that quite yet. Let's just go to the layout render program option itself, layout renderer, excuse me. And the layout renderer in the render, just like I mentioned last time, does go through the layout itself. This is the JSON file that has now been normalized to our layout data, and it is now doing the starting anchor, the straight, the ending anchor, the curve, the starting line, and the finish line. And all of those, as I mentioned before, are located within my UI section here. And each one of these within the UI, we'll just use curve here for example, will render a particular we'll do a render in which it will render a particular mesh. Now I've got certain routines here on the straights and on the curves called generate straight, generate a curve within the utilities section. And I'm going to spend, if you join me Patreon system here, if you join me in Patreon, one of the videos I'm going to do here is I'm going to spend a real significant amount of time about how all these points are generated, how the track is generated using all the different options within, or how the track is generated using Bezier curves and all that kind of fun stuff, and direction vectors and really fun stuff like that. I'm not going to go to it this video, but that's what the utility section does. So the straight, the starting line, the starting anchor, the finish line, the ending anchor, and the curve all will generate all those different pieces of track within the layout renderer. So again, like I said before, this is just a simple if else, and then I applied the physics to each and every single one of them. Most of them have a physical type of mesh. Other ones have a physical type of box. Again, I'm doing a massive zero because this is a track. I don't want it interacting with gravity. I want it to be the ground. I want it to be something that the cars and everything will basically bounce off of. So the layout renderer will do its rendering. So if we go now over to the race, if we go back to our full screen itself, again, we're not seeing any kind of layout. But if we now go over and let's take the comments off of the layout renderer and save it. There we go. So now we have the rendered layout, starting with the starting anchor, which is the black area, to the start gate, or the starting line, which is the yellow area there. There's a straight. Here's a straight with a slope in it. Another very tiny straight to kind of get us into the curve. There's the 90-degree curve. Here's another straight with a slope in it to kind of get some more speed. And then we end up with the finish line, another straight line, and then the ending anchor, which has a little box at the very end to catch all of the cars as they come across the finish line. And I've gone over, I know I've gone over the finish line before, but that's all there is to the layout render. So that's what the layout render does, is that now we have our layout on the track. And now let's do the car render to close out this particular video here. So the car renderer renders our cars at the very top of the screen. And I don't know what exactly this is going to do. And now the renderer, so the car renderer renders out the car renderer renders out all the different cars on the screen. And we're going to start with inside the constructor by creating a new car renderer, which we've done there. That's not going to be any big deal there. The idea here on the car renderer is to, next we're going to need to add the scene to it. So we got the scene, but the big thing here is the car renderer render section. So let's go through that very quickly. Car renderer render section. And again, I went through this on the other ones on the video, but very quickly again, all I was going to do here is I'm going to go through each one of the cars. I'm going to create the new car. I'm going to build the new car. This is where it actually does it creates the wheels and it creates the chassis and creates the connection points on how everything works. And I will do a specific video just on the car because that sucker is complicated as all get out. And then we push the render cars and we push the chassis so we can know which of our, how to determine who has finished it. So that's all there is to the render. So if we render the new car, let's go over to our race. I hit the wrong button there. So in the there it is, the car render. Now once I start this up, most likely what's going to happen is the car's going to go into the screen and then they may go somewhere or they may not. In fact, I can guarantee they probably won't go anywhere, and I'll tell you why here in just a minute. So let's go back over to our full screen. So there's our screen itself. So if we were now to go over and take out or to uncomment out the car renderer, save it. we get an error. So I've missed something here.
2 very boring minutes later.
Well, we didn't do a very good job in uncommenting out things. I forgot to uncomment out this section right here. So what we'll do is we'll move this up to here. That's just stupid on my part. Yeah, sounds, racing lights, race time, race shows. That'll be the next video. All right, so now it should work. Let's go over to our screen, and there it is. Yep, so now the cars are on the starting gate. Now I want you to notice, see if I'll zoom in well, I can't really zoom in. But if we do an F5 there, the cars are positioned on as close to the starting line as I can get, and they kind of fall down into place because they're affected by gravity, and then they stop in the starting line. And when we do the starting line video here with the next video, I will show you how that works, why they're stopped. Because the idea here is that if we go back now to our code, we've got the car rendering now, as we've seen here, and it's part of the scene. So 60 times a second right now, it's running this render, and it's sitting there going, okay, I got to move the car, I got to move the car, I got to move the car, but I can't move the car. It's not moving, it's not moving, it's not moving. What's happening? Well, that's because the start line is preventing it from moving, and I will show you that within our next video. But for right now, this particular video, this is, we showed you how the ground got put in there. Let's just go back at the top here. We showed you how the ground got put in there. We showed you how the ground was rendered. We showed you how the layout was rendered, and we showed you how the car was rendered. On the next video, we're going to take a look at the starting line, the finish line, and all the fun stuff that you see. Let's go to the screen. All the fun stuff that you see on the left-hand side here about the little beep, 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 and the finish lines, all that kind of fun stuff. And besides that, in the car, that should pretty much complete our videos.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel to view more videos. Click on the like button on this video and visit us at TheVirtuoid.com. Also, support us on Patreon, where you can get access to member-only videos. Links are down below. Again, thank you very much for watching, and keep on coding.